our liberty.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Your Right to Know, brought to you by the Fitchburg Republican City Committee. Tonight, I will be your host. My co-host will be Mary Lotze. How are you doing, Mary?
I am well, and Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year to everybody here, and for all of our listening, all of our viewing public. And tonight, we have a very special show tonight. We welcome ShelleyDawn, Elmer Eubanks, and Ilya Goldovt. I'm sorry if I'm sacrificing your name.
Ilya Goldovt.
Ilya, thank you very much. So, want to welcome all of our guests tonight, and we are going to open this conversation of immigration and why America and why the Republican Party. And please take a minute for everybody to introduce yourself. Also, what country you emigrated from, and how many years you've been living in the United States. First, Shelley.
Well, good evening, and thank you for inviting me to the show. I have actually lived in the United States of America for 35 years, and I have immigrated from Canada.
And Elmer?
So I'm originally from Costa Rica. I have a fun background. My mom is from Colombia. My dad is from Costa Rica. My grandparents are from Cayman Islands and Jamaica. So I got and originating, most of them came originally from the United States to South America. So we're back again. So I've been here at least overall, I've been here 45 years total. I was here for 10 years when I was a kid. My dad immigrated in the 60s. And we left for about 10 years and came back in the 80s. So from 74 to 85, more or less, I was out in Central America. So
thank you very much.
It looks like you brought a little of the Cayman Islands with you and Jamaica with you. So that's
my background is from the island. Yeah,
coming to you live from the islands. Mm-hmm. And Ilya, please introduce yourself, sir.
Hi. Good evening. Nice to see you all and hear you all. I emigrated from former Soviet Union in 1988. So in the United States, I am 34 years. Before immigrated in 1988, I was waiting for 10 years in Soviet Union to have a permission to leave. But when this Soviet Union collapsed, thanks for Ronald Reagan, and this time, so I had permission to leave Soviet Union. So I applied for immigration in 1978. In 1988, I left Soviet Union.
Well, thank you very much, Ilya. That's a very interesting story, and I'd like to be able to expound on that more. In fact, with what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine, I think we could have a whole show just on your experience, but that would be for later. So we have, okay, so are you all now U.S. citizens?
Yes.
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 Excellent. And how difficult was it for you to become a U.S. citizen? Go ahead, Shelley, we can start with you, and then we'll go to Elmer and then Ilya.
For myself, it was a bit challenging. They usually have you wait like 10 years before you can apply. I waited for 35. I just actually got my citizenship in July.
Congratulations.
Of 2021. Thank you. Just personal reasons, but I think for the most part, I think it's challenging financially as well as time consuming, learning what they want you to learn about the Constitution and then making the appointment, going to all your interviews. So I'll say it was a bit challenging, but it was very well worth it.
So in my case, I was when my dad moved here, we all got resident cards, green cards, and he came directly from Costa Rica. It was a lot less complicated in the 60s they wanted more people to come. So they had the process. You could apply for the residence card in your country. And I don't think it took too long. I think it was like maybe 6 or 7 months. You had to have a job lined up and prove that you could support yourself. And that was about it. So it wasn't that complicated. So when we left, we had to continue to come back to the United States because there was a rule that you couldn't stay out of the US for more than 2 years or you lose your residency. So every 2 years we would come back to the States. We had our home registered here in California. So we came back every 2 years and maintained the green card. So when I came back in the 80s, I didn't want to become a citizen yet, mostly because my Costa Rican citizenship allowed me to go to a lot of countries and not have a lot of hassle. So, and they didn't allow us to have dual citizenship. So until the 90s, when Costa Rica actually changed that would allow dual citizenship, then I decided to become a citizen. And the process was similar to Shelley's. It was you had to pay a fee, you had to study for the test, the Constitution, everything, we had to go through all that, make sure we spoke the language and do the interview. And the fees weren't as high. I think I paid like maybe $250. Now it's like $1,000 or $950 or something like that per person. And since then, I've actually done quite a few applications for people to help them with to apply for their green card or for their process of citizenship. And I've helped a few people in that process.
Great. Ilya, go ahead.
In my time, and at this time, it was a huge amount of immigrants from Soviet Union. So the way was pretty standard. When I arrived to JFK, we received, white card as a political refugee. In 1 year after this, I received green card. And then after 4 years, I received American citizenship. It was always my goal. I have relatives in other countries, in Israel, but it was my goal to have American citizen. So, and financially, I don't think it was some fees, but not something that even I can remember. It was not very serious fee. Sure, before receiving citizenship in a court, we have to study Constitution, but it was extremely interesting. My goal was always to be in the United States, so sure, we have to study Constitution. Well, this is my story, but this is a story for hundreds of thousands of people. So 1 year white card, political refugee, 4 years green card, and then American citizenship.
Very interesting. And what do you guys, in total, do you think that the length of time it took to become a citizen of the United States and the process to become a legal citizen, do you think it was too long? Do you think it was too complicated? I mean, what do you guys generally think? Shelley, go ahead and start first.
I always put the process off because it did seem to be pretty intense, especially with the testing. They do require you at this time to wait the 10 years. I think it could be lessened and more people could be encouraged, but everyone has their own agenda for why they're here, where they came from, looking for the freedom in the country, working under the table, or holding a green card. So wherever their comfort level is, that's the process that they choose. I don't think people understand what it takes to fight for what United States has as an immigrant coming into the country. I don't think you really understand it until you live here and get acclimated to know what citizenship can really mean and to fight for a republic.
Elmer, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the process is the process, and I think sometimes it's gotten a lot more complicated nowadays. They put in a lot more waiting time, and it's not as easy as it was back in the 60s, I think. Having helped quite a few people with their process, and I've seen, like, my stepdaughter it was like a 10-year process to be able to get her to come here, just because we missed we got married and she turned 21 like the same year we got married, and we didn't put the request in time, so we missed that window, and so now she was stuck in Brazil for 10 years. So some of the rules for families have changed and made it a little bit harder for families to get unification. Once you hit 21, it's like you're on your own, and for Latin families, being even at 21, you're still a kid with your family. You're really attached. It's a very close knit family, and so that was really tough on my wife and her daughter. The youngest daughter was able to come, but not the older one that was 21, turned 21. So that process, I think, is very complicated sometimes, and sometimes waiting. I had one friend that got married. He brought the kids. And to apply for citizenship, he actually staggered it because he couldn't afford to pay all the family members at the same time. It would have been like $6,000 of application fees. So he's been doing it one by one. So they all have their green card, but they're applying for citizenship, one at a time of the kids. So that's, so it can be a little bit complicated, and filling out the forms and paying for attorneys and, translating, learning the language. So it can be a bit of a challenge.
Having done some immigration work myself, and currently working on a few immigration cases, I completely understand where you're coming from on that one, Elmer.
Yeah.
So, Ilya, go right ahead.
In my case, 1 year, 4 years, and citizenship, I think the time was proper. So, but it's in my case, immigration, it's a very, very wide range, different cases. So I'm not a lawyer, I'm not specialist in immigration. I can talk only about my case. In case of many 100,000 people who came at the same time from Soviet Union, I think timing was proper. And by the way, in JFK, when you receive this white card as a political refugee, you can work. And then green card, sure, when you are citizenship, then I was able to work in military, in intelligence service, etc., etc. But again, in my case, 5 years from entering JFK and receiving citizenship in a court, I think it was proper time.
You're also dealing with a completely different time in American history as well. When you start talking about what was going on in the 80s, coming out of Russia, we were just exiting the Cold War, and we were encouraging the Soviet Union people to come over to become American citizens. Because of the hell that you guys were under for so long of a time.
Yeah, especially if you were Jewish.
I'm Jewish
in Russia. Yeah.
So I was waiting. You remember this word, refuseniks. So for 10 years we were refuseniks. I know what is KGB. I know what is it, how to interact with them. Sure. Yeah, you are right.
So, which leads me to my next question. Why did you or your family believe that America was a better option than your native land?
It was decided with myself and my husband at the time that our family would have a better life in America than it was in Canada for us and our children. Canada was starting to show signs of socialism back then in the 80s when I immigrated here. And it was looking at America, it was a land of opportunity to have the freedom that you have in America.
Even we don't think of Canada as being a socialist country necessarily. That's an amazing statement,
it
really.
became
Very clarifying.
It is becoming a socialist. I mean,
Yeah.
it started with socialized medicine, which is what they want to start doing here in the United States, and pulling the poison right into capitalism.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was the
Elmer.
same thing for us. And we were living in Nicaragua in '79, and Carter had Somoza leave and left this big hole, and Nicaragua became a communist nation as well. And so we got flown out of Nicaragua in '79 to Panama, then to Costa Rica, and then in the '80s we emigrated here back because we had green cards, so we could come back. And but Nicaragua just became this, just like Venezuela went in the last couple of years, Nicaragua went down that tube of socialism. People that I've talked to that had, a house in the summer house in the islands, Corn Islands or Bluefields, they lost their property. The government took it away. If you had 2 cars, they took your car away. If you had a house, they took your, an extra house away. So, it wasn't just like the corporations that they keep talking about. They went after individuals. If even modest people with modest incomes were having to get their stuff taken away. So yeah, so that was definitely something we wanted to get away from.
Wow, I'm picking up a pattern here. Eli, you want to finish off that pattern?
Yeah. Is this going to be a trifecta? Why did you leave?
Ilya?
Oh. So I would like to make 2 points. The first point, it's a family history. I was born when my father was 60 years old. It's a second family. First family was killed in World War II, his family. So always in a family, image of America. Oh, do you know how people work there? How people live there? Sure, it's settled in my mind. The second one, my personal. I love this country dearly, very much. And thinking about the history, many people immigrated to Europe. But United States, unique country in the world. And if other people, Republicans, other people, they ask me, only one country where you can feel like all other people, it's United States of America. In a history, all wars, almost all wars, started in Europe. Yes, there are many beautiful countries, but in all these countries, Great Britain, France, Germany, Italy, etc., there is a specific culture. You should take this culture and you should be accepted in this culture. In United States, all culture, the same.
Can I ask?
Of immigrants, yes. Do you want to ask something?
Well, I want to ask all of you, because obviously now, based on your stories, you all left to come, and because you heard that you were leaving a communist or a socialistic country, or a country moving towards socialism, and you felt that here you would find freedom and liberty. But you worked to do that, to get here. You went through the steps and stages. What do you think about President Biden's open border policy? What are your thoughts about it? I mean, we have people now who are coming over by the hundreds, tens of thousands, and I guess many of them are running away from socialism, which is honorable and respectful, but some are just leaving a country that they just may not like anymore for whatever personal reasons.
Or to come for work, right? But yeah, I mean, the whole concept of not having a process, I think is not good, because at least with us, you have a process where we apply, we go through a certain process. Even if you're a refugee, you file it, you go through a specific process for that, right? And right now it's all thrown out into, everybody, they're leaving people, they capture them and let's let them go into the States with, a court date in the future that it might take 3 or 4 years, and you don't know what these, there was no vetting of the people. Even when we came before, there was a process to vet you, to say, are you willing to be, part of this culture? Are you willing to be part of this country? Are you willing to work? Are you willing to not be dependent on the government? Those were things that you had to agree to, right? And now it's just like a free-for-all. So I think that's a problem that we're gonna live to regret if we don't, control that. Even as much as we want to be, have our open hearts and want to accept everybody, we can't just throw everybody in and accept them. We have to have a process, I believe. So,
Ilya, what do you feel about that?
Well, I have the same feeling like Elmer just described. So what happened with this President Biden, it's creating anarchy without process. Sure, many people ask me, but you were immigrant, you know what is this? Yes, I know what is this, but it should be process, absolutely process. Now it's not a process. It just came. Not even like Elmer asked that some questions, do you plan to love this country? Do you plan to live in this country? Do you plan to be a proud citizen? No, it just cross and that's it. Mm-hmm. Well, what we are quiet because we all know that this is a tool. Why this administration or who stands behind this administration, why they are doing this.
Right.
But there is no process. Anarchy always worked for leftists, socialists, and communists. In dark water, you can find some fish. It's a problem. So anarchy, it was when communists took Russia, in other countries, anarchy. So now we don't have process. We have nothing to do. Well, actually, I am repeating what Elmer just mentioned.
Well, so now let me ask you, and I'll start with Shelley. Why the Republican Party? So we know you've left to come to freedom and liberty. You don't like what's happening with the open borders of the Democrat Party. But why did you find comfort and solace and a place with the Republican Party?
Well, if I can just back up a minute and explain, I think it's very dangerous with the country, what's happening with the open border right now. It's very unfair. The southern border is wide open with no COVID restrictions. The northern border is closed with wanting people to be vaxxed and quarantined and tested. I have a 92-year-old mother, bedridden, I haven't seen in 2 years because I can't meet the requirements of what they're asking me to meet to go over the border. So I think this is a greater agenda that's happening and under this administration. And I call it under this administration because in Canada in 2000, I saw this happen where they let over 500,000 people go into the country. Just come on in, we'll give you citizenship in order to have them secure the votes of the rights of the liberal on the left side in Canada. So why Republican? I came here for lower taxes. I came here for secure and safe borders. And I came here for an opportunity to live the conservative values with the constitutional driven rights.
That you studied the Constitution. Elmer.
Yeah.
So I came for the same reason, for the liberty, being able to pursue my dreams as well. So, and that's why I joined the Republican Party because they fit more my ideals and my parents' ideals and what we that freedom of choice and opportunity to to value everything that we've achieved. And then having to lose that, having coming from a place where the country becomes communist, you can compare the differences that you have. So, and I think we're going in that direction now too, which is sadly, it seems to be like we're going back to all these communistic beliefs, and that's why I can't be part of the Democratic Party. So, anyway, I've got to run, but great seeing all of you, and hope to see you guys again some other time. Thank you.
Thank you, Elmer.
Elmer. Ilya, what about you? Very quickly.
Well, I'm joined with Elmer and Shelley they described this one. I want to make some notes. The last 15 years, it started polarization between Democrat Party and Republican Party. So your main question, why is a Republican Party? So the result of this polarization, like our President Donald James Trump mentioned, it's fight not for person, not for Trump. By the way, thousands of people, I was twice in Washington on this demonstration, many people said, it's not about Trump, it's about what is going on. But going back, as he mentioned, it started fight between what is the future will be in our country. It's fight between socialism and capitalism. In this way, sure, I joined the Republican Party. This is my polarization. It's a very, very specific for our time. So,
Andrew and I thank you both, and certainly Elmer, who is a professor and had to leave to meet with a class. But we thank you very much for joining with the Republican Party, the Fitchburg Republican City Committee, and joining Your Right to Know this evening. Thank you very much for being our guest tonight and talking about this very timely topic. Thank you. And good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
America, we stand for freedom. So let us all unite to yearn and strive for our republic that reflects our values, that preserves our rights, and goes forth in power and might, that reflects our values and preserves our rights, and goes forth in power